Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the John Wick Retrospective. I am Tubaba Tuyaga Trasnell, and I'm joined by...
I am the sommelier, Kirklin Patzer.
I am the concierge, Dylan Muss.
I'm the good dog, Taylor Field.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. And as we just alluded to, we are continuing. So you can go back and listen if you did not catch episode 1. We have reviewed in retrospective John Wick. I think it's just one. I always want to call it chapter 1 now, but it's not. It's just John Wick. But this is chapter 2. Taylor, where can they find all the good stuff we're producing? Lots of things on Patreon, lots of casts, I'm sure. Well, this is only dropping in March. There's tons of movie reviews happening, tons of games dropping, TV shows. Just out the yin-yang, GeekVerse is just overfilling.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find us with the internet connection. The search bar, GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerse is our Twitter. GeekVerse is our Facebook.
Everything you need to know down below, all the video, audio links, where to find us, and most importantly, how to support us, because this is a fan-funded network. Go over to Patreon, head over there, and get episodes ad-free, exclusive, or early like this. You get this week's early, you get the X-Men retrospective early. There's going to be content for 2024 that you'll be getting early this year. So go over there, after nines, vote on stuff. At this time, yeah, I guess might be soon. I think you'll be voting for Golden Geeks, or it already happened, but tons of perks and benefits, and everything you put into the podcast comes back to us, and we can create more retrospectives and shows like this. So here we are talking about John Wick Chapter 2, the sequel to John Wick 1. Kirkapatzer, I'm going to start with you. Ended with you on the last one. I'm going to start with you. What do you feel about Chapter 2? Is it a good follow-up?
Yeah, I think this is a step up in so many different areas of action, of enjoyment, even for myself, as well as just everything got turned up a couple notches in this one from the first one. And I mean, if you tuned into our first retro, you know how positive I was already on that movie. So yeah, I can safely say I'm loving this world that we're going into. There was just a lot of action, obviously, in this movie, like there was in the first one. But I think just like a lot of like the locations, I guess, we were at, or like the set pieces that we had for that action. It was. It's like if you're having a nice steak. I know you guys don't really. Well, I'm assuming you don't drink wine, but I feel like at least Travis, whatnot. You have a good steak, and then you accent it.
What
with
about
some
these
nice
two?
red wine.
What's with Dylan and Taylor? Why aren't they wine drinkers?
I
I don't
you
drink.
just move
so.
past it. You're
I like
I don't
wine,
know about-
Kirkland. You
Yeah.
I don't know
profiling
about
me?
these
Okay,
gentlemen.
there
They're
you go.
not as high class as me with my
I just had-
wine.
I had like the coffee thing in my mind. I know I'm the only one that drinks coffee, so I think I was pulling from that. But anyways, you have a nice steak, pair it with some nice red wine. I feel like just the set pieces that we're at in this movie, it was like that effect where the action, it was already great, but add on to it those other nice pieces, and it was so pleasurable for me. And yeah, there was obviously some of the assassination, or the world of assassination that was introduced in the first one. They expanded upon it even more in this one, and I liked all that from the first one. And so obviously just more of that in this one made it really good. So yeah, I'm excited to unpack it with you guys. I'll leave it there.
Taylor, a non-enjoyer of wine. What do you feel at John Wick Chapter 2?
This movie is absolutely fantastic. I love it. Holy shit, I love it.
Holy shit!
Holy shit. It picks up
Madison!
right.
Holy shit!
Holy shit, she's sleeping. Yeah, Madison, get down here. I just love this movie. I think that it picks up right where I want it to, and it has me laughing in more like some more parts than that first one does. The first one's so serious, but I laughed at it a few times in this one, and the action was just incredible. There is like a sequence particular that I just thought was fantastic, and we get a little bit of a taste of John Wick coming out of retirement. More like the other one was more so like John Wick going for vengeance, but this was much more like a little taste of him coming out of retirement, more so like what he was like before he went into retirement, the world. And we get so much more world building in this that I really, really just got sucked into, and I just love. So yeah, this is just fantastic. I can't wait to talk about it.
I feel like we got 2 hours of him coming out of retirement, not so much a little taste. I don't know, what's a little taste to you? 2 hours, I guess.
A little sip of wine.
Yeah,
A little
2
sip of
hours
red
worth
wine.
of wine. Yeah. Dylan Musk, was this a nice little taste for you?
Oh, I think I'm going to be swooping in a bit differently here, where the John Wick isms of it, the characters, that world building stuff, the action, and like this is a bigger budget, and you can feel that.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
actually know if it does. I just have to
It
assume
is,
it
yeah,
does.
for sure. I'll
Yeah.
get the statistics.
Well, I think the first movie was like very successful, right? So it would make sense they'd get a bigger budget this time around. But in terms of all that stuff, like it's still there. It's still just as good, and there's maybe a couple new interesting things. I think for me though, the biggest issue I have with this one compared to the first is the pacing. Travis, you mentioned this in the first movie that you're like, okay, I think like 10 minutes you could shave off this thing. I'm looking at like 20, 30 minutes of this thing I think you could shave off. And I think for me, the biggest thing is that a ton of this movie, or at least it feels like it, but like a good 30 minutes is essentially like recapping and redoing certain bits from the first movie. And yeah, like, you know, Taylor, you just said like it gets right into it. For me, it was like the complete opposite. Whereas like, man, it's taking so long before we can actually do anything new here.
Lots of
and
sips.
yeah, so many sips. Like, Jesus, I'm on my third course at this point. But yeah, like that first movie just gets right into it. Like, here's a basic setup for the character. We're into the action. We're into the movie. We're into the fun. I feel like this one, oh my God, it takes so long to get there. So unfortunately, that takes a lot of the wind out of the sails. It is still good, but for me, just because of that, like I don't really have any big issues with the first movie, like maybe minor things, but overall it's like a very consistent experience. But that like the pacing and the retreading of the ground is like a huge detractor on this one. So I would put this below the first one for me, even if some of the action set pieces are bigger and better than the first one. But overall, it's where I'm sitting.
All right, I'm just gonna take a sip of water there. I know you guys aren't big water drinkers, so you know.
That's from right here. What are you talking about?
Oh, okay. I just assumed, you know.
I'm going for my kombucha, dude.
There you go. It's interesting because so I saw John Wick 1, and then obviously we told the story like we didn't see the sequel in theaters, right? But then after that, I never went back because I think I've done this with a few franchises, like Taken. I've never seen any of the other Takens because to me that first Taken's like perfect the way it is. I don't need any more, and I think that's kind of like this. And that's not saying I didn't enjoy this one, but I think that's why I waited so long to see this. Obviously, Retro. I literally just watched this today, so I was just like, I guess I didn't feel like I needed more. I like what I got more, and I like Keanu, so I'm always down for it, and the gunplay is always good, and I agree with you. I think I'll be interested to see 3 and 4 because I think there's a sequence in here that I don't know will be topped in other movies. I think it's very well done. Also, the budget for the first one was 20 to 30, it said. This one was 40. So even at 10 more million, it could be almost double the budget still. That's
I put that 10 million into one scene. Like
100%. Yeah. Just to edit out a camera guy as well. But that's what's interesting because like 2 and 3 definitely feel like they're conceptualized as a trilogy or a sequel, right? Like to me, this feels like it's not exactly that, but I'd say the back half feels more like a bridge movie. It feels more like, hey, we're going to set it for 3. So that's why I feel like I'm interested to how my thoughts are on this one after I've seen 3, because it's not a spoiler. This movie's been out for a while. It ends in like a very cliffhangery sort of way, right? So it does that sort of thing. So looking back on it now, like I said, the first one to me is just like a perfect point A, point B story. We don't need any more. And what I get, I like it. There's just some things of, I think I went down. There's some things I don't know if I need to spend time on. Again, though, maybe in the third they'll come back and maybe spruce it up a bit. I'll go, okay, that makes sense. I think it's just more so the first one had such a perfect. We talked about this. Man loses wife. She leaves him one last present, and people take that away from him, right? And you okay? I get why he's into it. This I feel like it's very like convoluted how we got to get John Wick back, and there's lots of like a turn within a turn within a turn, and I understand it all, but it's just not as emotionally satisfying. This just feels like, okay, now it's like what Dylan said, I'm on that same way. Like I think the action's good, I think like Keanu's still good, I think it's still a good movie. I'm not like failing this movie, don't think it's a big step down, but I think it's just okay. I feel like I'm just watching this just primarily for the action now, and definitely too where it comes to the first one, I prefer the first one where the world was kind of teetering on the realism, where this one, I think there's multiple instances where it's like, okay, we're definitely more video gaming. That's fine. That happens. Fast and Furious did that, but I just prefer the more realistic tone. And there's things with the, how certain bounties are set out, or there's one scene in particular at the end I really don't like. And so I still like it, but definitely nowhere near the first one. The first one, once I saw the first one, I like felt I remembered it or got a good emotion. I don't know how much I'm going to remember of this other than a few particular scenes, I think. So we'll see. But definitely for me, lower than the first one by, I think, quite a bit, but still enjoyed my time. It's still, you can tell they're trying to make it with a lot of effort. So anything else? No, I was gonna say non-spoiler. We're doing a retro for I'm so used to, I'm like a machine. I'm so used to this. So, but any overall opening thoughts, or where do we want to go? What do we want to start with, you know?
I was
Should
gonna
we start
just
from the
maybe
beginning, Kirkland?
always
Yeah.
start in the beginning, as I love to do. Which, funny enough, that's kind of what I was gonna do. Whereas,
Mhm.
like the motivation to like just have him kicking ass again, like the first one we talked about, like it, like you don't really need to like argue like what his motivations are. It's like, no, this piece of shit came in, stole his
Yeah.
car, killed his dog. Like it's totally believable here. And then in this one, the motivation, honestly, for me, it completely works because it's like you have this super powerful,
Mhm.
influential person who did stuff, and John did like a blood oath with him to basically get him
Yeah.
out of the game. And then now this guy, he hears that John's back in the game, but it's like, hold up, now I have a debt to settle with him. And then like that's what happens to again get John with a gun in his hand again, kicking ass. Like I think for me that completely works, and maybe it's just because I don't know, like we are in this kind of heightened world already of like
Mm.
the world of assassination. Every time I say that, I feel like I'm a Hitman like ad or something. Well, enter the world of assassination with Hitman 47.
Well, I think
what
didn't they just do like Hitman 3 is actually rebranding as Hitman World of Assassination
Oh, there
as
you
of
go,
like
yeah.
this month. So yeah.
So it's subliminally in my mind, but
So is
yeah,
it
like,
wait? Is it called Hitman: The World of Assassination, or is it just the World of Assassination? Now, do they drop the
Hitman
Hitman
is
title?
Hitman's
Okay,
there.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I was like, what is this company doing? Just
They're just
let's
rolling
drop
the
Hitman.
trilogy into one like live service
Okay.
game essentially.
Okay, yeah, let's just
I
drop
see.
Hitman. Let's not put that in the title.
So yeah, like for me personally, like I don't know what's really gonna happen for the next one. Well, I guess I do because of how this one ended. But like all up until this point, all of the reasons to get John back in that Hitman suit, back to the Baba Yaga, kicking ass thing, like it's completely worked for me. And maybe it's just because I'm looking past it a little bit too much, because I don't need a big explanation on why I need John Wick kicking ass again. I just want to get to those points. So maybe that's just my own
Yeah.
personal things I'm bringing into it. But yeah.
It's so funny because I said to Emily, and with the way this first 5 minutes open, like I told you, because this happens in Die Hard, this happens in Taken, so many others. I'm like, because every movie ends right with like every revenge story ends with they kill everybody, everyone's dead, but there's always some fucking brother or family member you didn't know about, and they like enact the sequence again, right? So the first 5 minutes is that I'm like, okay, here we go, and I'm curious to see where this plays because they do this with a car and they call peace, and again in my mind, I'm like, why is he calling peace with this dude? Why does he not just kill him? It doesn't make any sense to me, but maybe this will be the reverse, and it can show me, oh, this is when it pays off. We'll see, because I feel like this character has to come back at some point, right? If not, then I'm with Dylan. At least this is a scene I would just cut, just take it out of the movie. Then, like I don't like it's cool, it's action, but I don't need put it somewhere else. But so for me, the motivations are okay. So I guess this is just like a sequelitis thing where the first movie we were told Nico gave him an impossible task and that got him out. Okay, but now we're saying Nico gave him an impossible task that got him out, and then he also had to do a blood oath with this guy on top of that. That's where I'm like, it's not convoluted that I can't understand it. It's just getting messy now. It just feels like, why is there a blood oath on top of Nico's deal? In the third movie, they're also going to be like, oh, I need to do 2 jumping jacks in this room to do it. Like, I don't know.
What do you mean, like, on top of this deal? Because he basically, like, he did the blood oath with this other organization. That organization could have been like, okay, let's have like 2 guys turn a blind eye that night of his impossible task. That was it. So all it was to give him.
It's just adding. My thing is just it was so clear cut and simple. Of Nico needed power, kill these people. He did it. You're good. You're good. It was impossible, right? Now this is kill these people. Also, while you're here, like I guess he did a blood oath with somebody, and that's where it's like now that character's dead. Maybe they'll get more into it, but are we going to get into the specifics of how that went down? And maybe that will help me. That's why I'm saying an addendum of like I think the third could help some of my issues, but I just don't think it was. I wish there was a different route. I wish it wasn't tied to him getting out of the business. I wish it was tied to maybe like something 10 years ago that he thought he had outran. I'm like, no, you still owe me this debt of just something, not tied to, well, I help you retire. It's like, no, I thought that was Nico's whole tie. So that's where I'm kind of messy on it for me, my feelings.
I think that's well explained, and that totally makes sense. I don't know if that was necessarily the thing that was bothering me about the introduction. It's more so that, like, I don't know, did you guys not feel like the first half an hour was just like really dry? We're getting into it. I mean, I guess it sounds like for Kirklin and Taylor, not so much, but for me, it was like, okay, we're going to have the boogeyman line again. We're going to bring up the pencil reference. We're going to have John. Oh, now he's covering up the hole. Jimmy's going to come by his house. They're going to have a conversation. That's pretty much the same. He's going to visit the hotel again. Like, it's just everything is like, I guess if I had seen the first movie in theaters in 2014, and I liked it. I come back, whatever, 3 years later to go see the next one. Maybe those things would be fun. I'd be like, okay, remind me about
Yeah.
these things, good references. So perhaps that's a podcaster thing. I watch these movies 3 days back to back. Maybe it was just like too much too soon. But I don't know. I think even if like I was rewatching these movies often, I feel like okay, it's kind of slow to get into it for what is ultimately not really anything of substance, just kind of playing on nostalgia for something that's not even that old. I guess that's just something in films that generally bothers me, perhaps. So maybe it stood out here as well.
See, before you guys go, because I'll just quickly grab what Dylan said there. Is like when I watched back, because I watched John Wick, I've seen before last, and then this, they did the whole like you working again with the cop line. They did the whole boogeyman thing, and then later on, when someone asked him if he's back, he's like, "Yeah, I'm back." Like that, it was weird. Where I thought, "Oh, in a theater, this was probably lots of fun when you have it's your first time watching it." But watching it within 24 hours, it was weird. Not again, it wasn't like, "Oh, this is awful," but I almost wish there was less references. And I agree with you. I think that I don't think it was slow for me. I think I liked it all, but I think you could take out the Baba Yaga. And I hated that they did the whole thing again where they said, "Oh, who is it? It's John Wick," and the bodyguard goes, "Oh," and it's like, oh, it was such like a unique moment in the first one. I think I agree that they could have cut some stuff, and even some of the references, I think they could have like taken a few out. They're not major cons, but it definitely hurt some of my enjoyment of the film.
Yeah, I think you could definitely trim some fat in there of just some lines that were just, basically copy pasted from the first one, like you were mentioning. But like I watched the first one like before New Year's for sure, and then this one, like the second one, I watched this morning. So like it hasn't been a long time, but still it was like, oh yeah, no, that's what happened. Okay, I'm remembering it there and there, or here and there, the different scenes that happened. And so that's a nice little reminder, but also at the same time of like how he's literally just like burying all of his stuff again, and he's like, re-cementing. Like I actually really liked how it was just like, it's not like 5 years have happened since the first one. Like this is like the next
4
night,
days.
essentially. Okay, 4 days there.
4 days,
so
yeah.
so I'm kind of caught in the middle because I feel like I have kind of pros and cons for like both of the things that they did, but I don't know. I was also just, I think, fully in the camp of like, oh, the legend of the John Wick, and it's just like John Wick, and then the guard is like, oh no, him. Like I think that like that still kind of brings me to a grin. So at least I'm in that demographic of it's completely working. I understand though the complaints.
And I will say, even though like I have issues with what it does with him getting out of the business, I liked the idea of the blood oath and how they played it up to be mysterious for like the first 20, 15 minutes. They didn't like right away he didn't put it down and be like, "This is the blood oath," remember? He just like, you know what this is. And they were really mysterious. They kept sliding back and forth. I liked the kind of, again, mythos of what is this thing? And eventually Winston explained it to us. But I like that they kind of withheld it for us for a little bit, because I was trying to rack my mind of like, what the hell is this thing? And I guess it's it's a blood oath. So,
and when you see it too, like the overall design of it kind of like ties into how I was talking about like the coins in the first episode, how like they just have this like very ancient, like, it just seems like an old artifact that they found from like the early ages.
Imhotep's tomb or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and like that's
like
what
100%.
this blood oath compass type thing looks like as well. And I just, again, give them credit, because they could have easily just been like, this is a ticket that has your blood oath on it, but it's like, no, they went over
this contract you signed.
It brings this like mysteriousness, I don't think that's a word, but mysteriousness to just the overall item that they have, which they don't have to go through all that detail of having it, but they did, and I definitely tip my hat to them.
It's okay, Kirklin. I make up words all the time,
All words are made up, Travis.
That's true. All words are made up. Yeah, and that's the thing where, because later on they show that they have the paper contract of it, and they could have showed that, but how boring would that have been if he just slid over a piece of paper?
Yeah.
Like, I'm fine the concierge having that, but if he just like, I have this document, I'm like, oh well, this is lame. So that was like this cool, like, oh, what's in this thing, and it opens up and it says bloody thumbprint, which still look relatively fresh, but still, like, because I don't know how, right, he was retired for 5 years, right, and stuff like that, so it's keeps it nice and liquid in there. But what about you, Taylor? How are you feeling with the first act? Like, Mean John getting back to concierge, getting the issues going on
right from the start when he's in action. I loved it. It was fantastic. The individual that sold this whole opening sequence for me, Peter Stormare,
that guy's in everything.
He is in everything.
And he plays the same character in
He
everything.
He does.
Taylor. He is like the exact same character.
Exactly. So just to have this character now pitched as he's Nico's brother. Okay. And his acting just had me laughing and just totally sold, because he's like, okay, Fuck, it gets me every time. He starts talking
Oh,
to
yeah. Yeah, I
his
love this
colleague about like, oh yeah, like Baba Yaga and what his nephew did, all this kind of
pencil.
stuff. And yeah, so when the phone rings and his henchman picks it up and hands it to him, and John Wick's like, "You have my car," and he's just like, he trembles and drops the phone, and he's like, "Baba Yaga." His acting is absolutely legendary in this. It's top tier. And then he starts getting into the story like he killed 3 men with a fucking pencil. Like he's just reiterating all
Who
that, and
does
it was
that?
gold. Yeah, who does that? It's so good. Fuck, I love it.
You guys gotta
Yeah.
redo that scene for me, and I'll edit it in there. You know.
There,
I'll get
his
the neck tat and everything. I'll totally
Yeah.
dress up.
his acting again is shown like highlighted here when John Wick is getting closer. You hear the gunshots and the crashes down below, and Peter, like his face is like like his eyes are wide like
His
fuck.
eyes
Yeah.
twitching.
Yeah, Baba Yaga's coming, and then he comes to the door. He puts the drink down and gives it to him, and yeah, he's just like peace, peace. And I think this is where it really kind of sticks with him. Like, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna fuck with John Wick. I learned my lesson. But it's just I loved everything about that opening sequence. Like, I'm so glad that Peter do that because he was just fantastic. And moving on from there, his reasoning for kind of being pulled back into the whole syndicate of stuff, I think it totally works on me. I'm totally there for it. The archaic old school methodology.
The old
of-
guard.
The old guard, yeah.
And their
Using,
blood
like,
oaths.
it just gives me like some underworld vibes or something like that. This is so
Wars.
peculiar, and I'm totally down for it. Just using the ledger when the blood oath has been completed, and he's got to like sign it there with blood and all that. I think it's super, super cool. And this is where I really like how it unfortunately his house gets destroyed.
Very unfortunate.
He could have Madison even asked this too, like, oh, why didn't he just like agree to it just so he didn't have to get his house blown up or whatever? It's like, it's just the way the killers work. It's how it goes. So
At least the dog's okay this time, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it's a
absolutely.
reverse last time, right? In the first movie, he lost his car and his dog, and this movie, all he has left is his car and his dog. You know, like that. They literally swap it on its
Yeah.
head there. So, yeah,
Gonna
it's funny
happen in
because
the
like, he's losing everything. John Wick 4 is about like his son or something, but yeah, it's interesting because that's I guess my John Wick being like this loyal, kind of humble, I'll say nice at times assassin, I guess is what drives the plot forward sometimes, because I just go like, I feel like he should be smart enough, he knows this world, because this happens, he says no, he goes talks to Winston, and he's like, well, you have no choice, you have to accept it. So it's like, yeah, I guess John Wick is just hoping that if he says no nicely, they'll be like, you know what, all right. And I get, because even then, like, it's weird later on they have this dialogue, Winston and what's the villain's name? It's Santonio or something.
Oh yeah.
Santino D'Antonio.
Santino. So anyways, he
That's a
has this
sick
thing,
name,
and Winston's
Santino
like,
D'Antonio.
yeah, Winston's like, he warned you about getting you back his life, and he's coming for you. But that's not why John Wick's coming for him. He's coming for him because after the hit, Santino sent all these guys after him, but they tried to repurpose it as like, he warned you if you got him back in. It's like, no, you could have just let John Wick go. And that's always the thing. This is not just this movie. I have a problem in every movie where, okay, John Wick kills his sister, right? It's a big secret. They don't want anyone to know. So what does Santino do? He sends like 15 to 20 people who also know the secret to take out John Wick. It's just like, Ruby Rose knows the secret. Like, why is it just John Wick you have to, like, I got the impression John Wick would have killed her and just gone back, but Santino like has to kill John Wick. Why? To me, just like so John Wick can get in the thick of things again, when a bunch of other people know that like they're talking about it in like Common, Winston, all these people know, like, oh yeah, Santino killed his sister, but he has to kill John Wick to, like, I don't know, hush him up, loose ends. It's kind of weak for me in the later on. I don't mind the KO me a blood oath, but to keep him in the action, I didn't like that. Well, he knows about the sister thing. It's like everybody fucking knows. So
Yeah.
It wasn't about. Well, I guess you already kind of spoke to that. I was just gonna say, like, knowing
because
about
Ruby
the sister
Rose says
thing.
tying up loose ends. She says that. So like, why does they need to tie up John Wick
Well,
if everyone else knows? You know?
The way that I took it is, it wasn't so much like to like shut him up or anything like that. It was just like a power play. Like this guy who just is in a position of power. He just like, oh, he killed my sister. Like, I'm just a super baller if I get the person to kill my sister. If I kill him next, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, again, I couldn't make a nice argument for a debate or anything like that. But just in the moment, it was just like, I believe that this type of character would probably do that.
He
'cause
says
he's
it
just like
too.
a super power hungry leader, whatever lack of a better term you got for him.
like he says to justify his own like actions, like, oh, how would it be, John, like if I didn't avenge my sister's
Yeah.
killer?
Make it some random
So-
guy then. It doesn't have to be John Wick. This fucking kill Coleman. Like even then, it's so weird that
He's got a blood oath on him.
she like kills herself, but then John Wick still like shoots her in the head. Like it's a weird that middle portion.
She's going out on her terms. It's all about those
Yeah,
terms.
she's going down fighting. Yeah, see, no, that's going out on your terms, Taylor. Defoe didn't do that. He didn't choose to die. He was trying to fight. But that's where, for me, like, I like the start. It's you could have cut some. I like the ending, but the middle, that's kind of my hang-ups with this one. So, yeah. And Santino's fine. I like Nico more than Santino, I'll say. So,
I agree with that.
I agree.
The couple earlier things from earlier on in the movie, the like initial car chase scene. Once again, like how they, I don't want anyone to get hurt in the production of these movies, but the fact that they actually like tail spin a car into a guy and he like flies and hits a pole, like it's so visceral that they make these things feel very authentic. So shout outs to them for like going that hard and trying to make these things feel real.
yeah.
One thing I really liked is when John's when he's getting ready for the big mission or for the temple mission, we'll say. And so he like goes to like the arms guy, he goes to like get his weapons, and he's getting the plans as well. I just love how there's no hesitation. He like knows exactly what he needs in terms of like how hemmed this part of his suit is and stuff like every detail of it is so methodical. I just love that element of the character. I think that was like a fun thing that we didn't really get to see that exact element of him last time, but like in terms of the planning of it too, when he needs to, he knows exactly what he needs for the job, and I find that very, very cool.
He should have got a jacket he could bite on, like the last.
Yeah, it's a good superpower.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I loved all the details of that stuff when he sees the sommelier and he's just going through the different guns and like he just picks them up, he's just doing like his quick little like sight in or whatever, and he just looks like a total professional, and just that gearing up process, it's like a little montage that goes on because he's getting his suits. It's like, you need one for daytime or you need night. It's like one of each, and he's just like up at that point, it's like, hey, what's he gonna use this for? And then what ensues is him using that equipment to just kick ass. And I'm such a sucker for all that stuff. I love like a gadget sequence, whether it's like James Bond getting his new gear from Q or whatnot, and it's kind of like that. So, and again, it's just like, is the sommelier in? It's like, I've never known him not to be. And then he just like go to this back room, and it's like, he's not a wine sommelier. He's just like, he's like a weapons dealer. So all of that stuff I'm such a sucker for. So, and again, like that was, I'm not gonna say like really lacking in the first movie, because you do get a little bit of it, but it's mostly just like him having his own stuff. So to him like go to an actual like assassin store or whatnot, and he's listing off all like the custom mods that these guns have, that I know you'll really appreciate, Mr. John, or whatever he calls them. So I loved all of that stuff in there. Hopefully it keeps amping up in the later John Wick films too.
He keeps it pretty simple on the equipment front, but I wonder if they go off the deep end in terms of giving him some crazy
The
tech.
energy shooter or whatever the hell Storm calls it.
It's like it's a dog gun, like the dog could just start shooting away and stuff like that. Like he just gets James Bond like invisible car stuff in the future. It's like, oh, I didn't know this existed.
I love how, just following up just with going to the sommelier, and I can never say that word very, very correctly all the time.
Just don't
Sommelier, thank you. Obviously I don't like wine, so
Yeah, of course. Only
Well,
wine
I
drinkers know
assume,
that.
I love how it wasn't just a quickly used sequence and just done. Like with the guns, sure, the guns are just dime a dozen in this, but the suit particularly was reused so much throughout this, where he's like pulling up like the jacket over his head and everything.
Like Batman over here.
Yeah, it's so fantastic. I love it, and it's just kind of like leading into that tunnel scene. I thought it was just fantastic, and this is what I kind of hinted at, where we get like that taste of him in that first film. But now here we are seeing what he was full on like and doing, living it up to the fullest and taking advantage of all the assets that the concierge has to offer. And so getting to have that little taste here and now is just fantastic.
Wait, your exact quote was, "We got a taste of it in this movie," but now you're saying
No, in the first one.
No,
We got a taste of it in the first one.
What did you say in the beginning in your non-stories? You said you got a taste or like a sip.
In the first one, but now we got like him back, and like this is him taking advantage of everything.
I swear you said this movie you got a sip of him or something like that.
He's sipping a few things, yeah.
Yeah.
Him going international too is an extra like cherry on top. Really, really like that. But yeah, just him going through the tunnels and just like run out of ammo with one gun, and just how they choreographed this tunnel sequence, man. I feel like I could rehearse it in my living room, just like pretending jumping around, just like reliving the action, because it's
promise you
so
can.
cool.
I promise
so-
yeah.
Make
In
sure
my
you have a
mind, I
camera
am.
on it. We can make
Yeah.
some content. Out of
Get
that.
Madison to get a camera and get you on and release it on TikTok. I'd love to see you 10 seconds in. You're like, okay, what does he do?
Yeah.
We've had wrestling matches before.
You just
I
got to
know
get
you're
like
suit
a
up.
over 100 fever, and then you can remember it well.
Yeah.
apparently.
Yeah.
There's so many times too when he got shot, I forgot he had that suit. So I was like, oh my god, how's he gonna recover from
Just
two
killed
shots
him
to the
off.
spine? Like remember was
Yeah.
one point you're like, I was like, what the fuck? I was like, right,
Those
get the
back
Kevlar.
shots.
Yeah, but I was like, oh my god, like how John Wick now, where the rest of the film's gonna be recovering from 2 shots to the spine. Like, what's gonna happen? Okay, no, it's a Kevlar suit. We're all good to go. Yeah. So
The one thing specifically to, I mean, this is kind of like, I'm kind of jumping around, but just with the suit and everything like that, when the bounty hunters or the other assassins are on him, there's the one big sumo fella, and this
Yeah.
just really stands out. Man, he was so hard to kill. In multiple shots to the head. Like, this fucker was like Walking Dead style.
yeah, I don't know if it works like that, but yeah, it was interesting. Like, I'm torn here because there's 2 lines where I like them leaning into getting way more like the violinist. That's like we're getting more over the top. I guess I just have to repurpose my mind for the third one, and that's why I might enjoy it now. Like, okay, we're getting really more almost video game action, where the first one was more grounded. But because there's literally like Emily pointed this out to me, so like, I guess it works. But when they have that phone line placed and there's women 24/7 on the phone just accepting assassinations, I'm like, okay, this is too much for me. I can't believe that they have a dedication of like 12 women just like, oh, hello. But then she's like, well, they do have no multiple hotels. So I'm like, okay, I guess. But so that the good stuff is, okay, you get to see all these variations of assassins and what they do in their methods. So I like that. But then you do have this guy get shot twice in the head. I'm like, I don't know if I'm on board with this, but now I'm just trying to go, okay, I'm trying to change my mind of how I'm going to watch 3 and 4 now, especially because I feel like, okay, we're getting more into like a even Hitman 47. I guess there's cloning, so never mind. Throw that out my window. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned on the first retro like the similarities between this and like the Matrix, but I feel like even more so, you get the sequel to this universe, John Wick,
Yeah.
and again, it's pretty similar to the sequel for Matrix when you have all those Agent Smiths just like there and like on a team, and then at the end of this, you get all those people in like the courtyard, just like kind of as if they're like Agent Smith, just all look at him at the same time.
Hated it.
Holy
I
shit, this is the
hated
same
it.
movie.
When
Yeah,
Ian
I didn't like
McShane's
it.
like, oh, I have a lot of people around, and everyone pauses and look at him like, you're telling me all these 50 people in this park in New York, there's not one single regular person? That was too
Oh, yeah.
far for me. I just like, I wish it was just a few people. They didn't need the whole park to turn, just like a couple people looking at him. I think that's enough, but it's like, Ian McShane has a fucking mini army here to take down New York.
Agent
and-
Smith was in there too.
There's an element to it where
You
I didn't like how much retreading there was at the start of this. The way this ends, in terms of how bombastic it is, but also the fact that he doesn't have the ties with the organization anymore. Like I feel like there's no way they can do that again for the third one. It has to just be a completely different kind of experience in that way. So I'm excited for that. Hopeful at least that I don't have to get another pencil joke for the third time. I don't think I need that. Going.
I
in
wouldn't. I
Parabellum
wouldn't
here,
count it
but-
out. I don't know, because they doubled down. They told the story and they did the pencil kills in this. I think like
Only 2 though. It wasn't 3 people.
yeah, it
with
wasn't too.
pencils.
I thought he was gonna break the record, but yeah, I think when they did the kills, I liked that. I think you could just took out the reference, and that would have been a fun reference of like, oh look, he's doing the pencil thing. But that pencil of the ear, oh my god, that's like you talked about
yeah.
Dark Knight, Kirkland, and Dark Knight they had to cut away so you couldn't see it. This is like no, it's a radar movie. We're gonna just show this pencil go all the way in the ear, and oh. Not
Yeah,
away, not on my
squirming.
not on my own terms.
You're okay. No joke. I'm looking at my notes right now, and I wrote that character, she killed herself so she could go out on her own terms. I wrote that in my notes. Like
There you go.
Side. It was the perfect description for that kill. So I'll agree with you on that one, Taylor.
Yeah, that's going on your own terms, you know. So, gosh darn.
That's hilarious.
Where to next?
Well, I think we should talk more about this temple sequence because we
Yeah,
talked
sure.
about the underground, and I want to go back there. I like the lighting there too, kind of the black and blue that they had going on there, which I think they've used a lot in the posters and stuff too. And we kind of have as our background here for our YouTube background. But I love that he just like picks up that shotgun at one point and he's using that because we're so used to him rocking the pistol the whole time. So that was kind of a fun, different thing. And I thought they got really creative with. Like they do, I don't know if it's completely realistic in terms of when he reloads his pistol. Usually, he does do it a lot, so it's obviously something they're like thinking about. Like, I would not be surprised if every action scene is like he shoots exactly however many bullets are in the clip, and then he reloads.
It is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that seems totally fitting. I love for the shotgun. That's such a different element because you can only do whatever, like 2 or 3 shots, whatever it is, before you have to reload. And I like that they implemented that into all the action sequence. Sometimes it would just be like a little moment of silence while he's walking down a hallway. But then I love that sequence when he's pushing the guy down with the shotgun,
yeah.
holding him down, and then like reloading while he's doing it. Like they just got really creative there, and I had a lot of fun with that classic hallway sequence.
Because you know that guy for a second thought he made it. He's like, oh, he's out of bullets, and then no, he reloaded mid, pushing him down to the ground. You know, just gone and stuff like that. So, Taylor, was that the sequence you were talking about? As like the tip top secret sequence, the hallway one?
The underground hallway.
Oh, really? Okay, so I'm the reverse, where I'm
You like the above ground hallway.
nope, I'm on the mirror spectrum.
Oh, the mirror. Okay.
Nothing to do with the hallway. Is that I really love anytime. So lots of movies do, but sometimes I feel like they do it for like 30 seconds and it's just gone. And it's just, but I feel like I like this was extended sequence. We got some dialogue. I like the multiple like guards in there, and then I like the final fight with Ruby Rose happening in there. I liked everything about it. I love that it was this mere hallway and it kept having these entrances, and the way they made the camera was like it would look like it was Keanu, but it wasn't, and the door open, you're like, oh shit. Like I loved everything about like this mere funhouse sequence. I love the colors in it. So, and that's the one where I said they probably spent the most budget because they had to fucking, I guarantee you, CGI or edit out the camera guy all the time. Like to me, this is a set that they probably had to build, because I don't think they just went and fucking destroyed someone's mirror room at a carnival, like unless they paid lots of money. And then all these shots are gonna like, because the shots aren't from the camera. So, tons of them are Ruby and Keanu fighting. So the cameraman would be back there. So you know they had to scrub all that stuff out. Like I thought it was really impressive. So no, that was my favorite sequence, and that's a sequence that I don't know if it's gonna get top for me in this franchise, because I thought it was really well done. I liked everything about it. So
I loved every time someone would enter the room too. It would say like the welcome to what blah blah blah. Like it was just a reoccurring
Yeah.
line, and it said it multiple times because different characters would come in at different stages, and I just liked how it, like every time they're at that point, that same little line would drop. But yeah, it's tough for me because I think I'm kind of. I mean, I love both of the sequences. You guys were talking about the underground sequence. That one, like, I just love like the shadow effect that it had with the lighting, and just like it's not full octane right away. Like it kind of gets to that point like once Ruby shows up, but then yeah, it's hard to discount like how I mean, for all the reasons that Travis just laid out, but also just like how visually pleasing that mirror sequence is. I love like the neon lights that they got, as well as just, I mean, all the action that goes on in that super fun set piece. So yeah, those were I think those were the two like big highlights for me throughout this movie, was those set pieces that they had, and like where the concert was like leading up to the underground fight sequence. I just loved like from start to finish like that entire sequence. We kind of talked about the lady, you know, just slit her own wrists in there, which that just had me squirming. Don't like that at all. But just like the way that her room was kind of set up, and they had like a bit of an aerial shot showing like the tub in the middle. Just really, really cool design for a room like that. And I really, really liked it. And that too was kind of where I was mentioning on the first retro, how I felt like her dialogue there was kind of hinting maybe a little bit that not Keanu, John Wick's wife like didn't know about like his going ons. At least that's the way I took it, because she says like, what would she think if she could see you? I think that was the line that the lady dropped to him. So again, like maybe I'm just looking into it a little bit too much, but that kind of just makes me think that she had no idea that he was just the super killer, or maybe she did know about it and it was okay because he just like put it down. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading into that scene too much. But I wanted to mention that before I forgot it, because I mentioned it on the first retro, and I figured if we kept talking, I would have forgot about it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I think you might be right. I'm maybe just hoping you're right, because I don't want that thread picked up, like the wife being that reason why I got him back in and why he was sad. Like that's all I need from that. I don't need this complicated, well, she knew this and that, or she's this that. I also don't need this is his wife's sister or brother he bumps. Like I don't want any of that stuff. And like that happens sometimes when franchises go on too long, right? Because they start running out of ideas. Like, well, what if her brother was a killer too? Like that's what I don't want. I want her to be a separate thing. So I hope that she just kind of gets mentioned. And yeah, like I liked the sister aspect too, because I like that it seemed like John knew the brother, but it seemed like he was friendlier with the sister and stuff like that. Like they had more of a connection, so it was harder for him to kill her, because he did make it sound like it was impossible to kill her, and it was honestly quite easy to get that job done. Like it was like he's like, I can't do that, you know what? And I do like I didn't say I like the underground fight and everything, but what I liked about it was he gets hit from her side with Calm and everybody, and then as he's like getting his way to escape, that's where Ruby on the other side was. So it's like Taylor saying somebody, you know, last night when Dylan got someone Call of Duty, you're saying somebody was getting off a 12-hour shift and they're sandwiched in between two people, and that's what poor John Wick was. You know, he's just trying to get home. He got her team, he's got his team, so I liked that aspect. So I liked everything about it. You got Common, who I think he's a fine actor. I'm never, every time I see Common, I just know exactly what I'm gonna get, and I get it, it's fine. But I guess it's just because like what he has here, I wish I could make Common Defoe and Defoe Common, you know, like that's what I really wish I could switch around. It's just because I would have loved that dynamic. Where this is like, it's fine. I like that he's like, I actually don't know why he's so set on having to kill John Wick. I would feel I get it night one, but I feel like him continuing to follow him, because he's not there for the money. Because when he got the notification for the money, he was kind of, he looked like whatever. Like it's,
he mentions
vengeance.
that I think Gianna is the name of the sister. That she's his ward, which is one of those things that they never really explain it, right? And I don't know exactly. Like a ward's usually like a protective thing, right? So whether it was his goal to protect her, or somehow he was a bodyguard, but then she protected him in some greater, you know, one of those John Wick like lore things that's not fully explained. But it's like if there is a special name given to their relationship, you know, there's something going on there. Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was one little call out. But I think you're right. Like for me, I've never known this. There's this guy named Common. Apparently, his only name.
Oh, you've seen him. You've seen him in one thing.
I've probably seen him in stuff, but I've never heard the name Common before. You guys were saying that a couple times earlier in this podcast. I'm like, I don't know exactly what they're talking about, but I'm sure I'll get there at some point. But yeah, I think for me, like that dynamic is one of those things too, where I feel like a scene or two of him and John Wick could have been cut or shortened, because I just feel like it goes on for a long time. But since his character isn't too intriguing, it just felt like it was going on a bit. But there were elements I really liked, like when they walk by the water fountain and it goes down and he's just looking at him from across the fountain, then the water goes up and they start shooting at each other. Or my favorite part is when they're walking through, I think it's like they're exiting the airport and there's pedestrians everywhere. He's above, they're below, and they're just like using their silencers like in crowd, like under their jacket, like shooting at each other, just taking the pop shot every once in a while. I thought that was hilarious. I loved that sequence.
That scene was the official when I checked into, okay, this world is now changing.
Yeah, definitely. That was very silly.
Very silly. And I liked it still, because I was still like you, I was laughing. Just the fact that they have these silencers, they're just taking like little like, and they just go back to it. It's like, okay, the first movie I had problems with no one noticing, but this one, like John Wick killed those two guys, he cut some man's penis off in the train station, and no one noticed when they rolled up. No one looked out the window and saw just pools of blood everywhere. So that's just like, okay, we're in a very, like, this is God mode part here. But no, it was fun stuff. And the waterfall, so when Kirklin, you're talking about the first one, how they didn't kill anybody, I thought for sure they're going to nab some people there. Like, imagine that, you're just looking at this waterfall and you just get lit up by Baba Yaga. Like, but yeah, and I actually really liked the reveal of how he figured out, like, because it's almost like if he didn't bump into him, her team wouldn't have been after John Wick, because he knows if you see John Wick, something bad has happened. When he asked me, he's working, right? And he said it was a good night. He said, unfortunately, yes.
Oh,
I actually liked that whole back and dialogue, and I like right away pulled the guns on each other, because he knows like the gig's up. Like, I like kind of in this world, if he would have said, "Are you working?" and John Wick would have said no, I feel like he would have like took it at face value, like no. And that's why I like that even the assassins, they have like this trust and loyalty, so like they have to kind of say, yeah, I am working, and then it knows, okay, game's on. And all the way to the fight to the concierge, I really like they bash through the window and they remind them of the rules. And I love the buying of the drink, and I love, for some reason, maybe it's just because Common and Keanu in the movie world know each other, there's this like respect. But like with Ruby Rose's character, she's like, can I buy you a drink? He's like, no. And like he just constantly is like shitting on her, and then he stabs her the same way he stabbed Common, but he left her to die, because Common, he left that in your order, right? He said, if you pull this out, you're gonna die. He stabbed her in the same spot and he pulled it out. So it's just like they have this, Taylor's gonna say it's the old guard, right? It's the old guard, they respect each other. With the new guard, she offered to buy him a drink, and she was following rules. She wasn't trying to kill the concierge. Like, she was exactly as them. Or Keanu's just John Wick's just a sexist. He's like, I don't want no girl assassins. But like, I just found it funny that they had this level of respect, and she like almost tried to get that, and they wouldn't give it to her. And I love that send off too. If like, I'll be seeing you, and he's like, sure. And good moment. But I want to bring this up before we continue, because Dylan, you're asking, I know where you'd seen Common before. You remember this great scene,
No Beef?
the hunka special, No Beef. He's the man who Joker said, you want to sleep with my wife, you want to sleep with her? Apparently in the haircut there's more of that. Yeah, you want to fuck my wife? Yeah, that's Common.
Damn, I got to rewatch that movie more. Hey?
Oh yeah, he's got less face tats in this one.
Yeah, they're on his body.
A lot was said there. Oh yeah, so I mean, just to quickly correct you, it's Continental. That's the hotel, not the concierge. Just
oh, thank you. Yeah, I think I called the Continental on the first one. I don't think you.
I think you did.
Either.
Yeah. So
I got that Christopher Walken
to...
SNL skin. Have you guys ever seen that before? The Continental with Christopher Walken.
I don't think so. No.
He invites like a person into, it's probably not PG anymore, but like he invites a person in this hotel room and he just won't let them leave. And he's always come out with this, and it's first person the whole skit, and he's always come out with this like these very elaborate like comedic reasons why they can't leave. And he'll be like, they'll like have their hand on the door. He's like, oh no, we're not done yet. Like, but now it's probably not acceptable. But Christopher Walken's great. He should be in this universe. So there you go.
Yeah, why not? Speaking of Common, I feel like he definitely hits the same note when he pops in on things, but I like when he's included, because it's usually like they're not trying to do too much with him. It's like they know how far they can go with this character and actor, and they kind of stick to it. And I think he fit really well in here. I really just love the dynamic between him, between him and John Wick, but also him and Gianna, because it just like she has this like presence where it seems like a lot of people have a lot of just respect or love for her or whatnot. Like even John was really, it seemed, I mean, he wasn't really hesitant to kill her. Well, I guess he was, but like he was going to kill her, but he didn't love what he was doing, and you can even kind of see it in his face, like when he does have that face to face with Common, and like he seems sad that happened. You know, even drops that like unfortunately it did happen, and then even Common, like he just seems really. I mean, he failed at his job to protect her, but also it seems like there's more love there that he had for her. At least that's the way that I was reading into it, and. But like it's funny because like she's not completely shown to be like a really nice person. Like she was kind of threatening that other character. I keep forgetting his name, but he was in Peacemaker, as well as the next Guardians movie. Travis, what's the actor's name?
Yeah. Oh, don't put that on me.
Okay, sorry. I thought you had it quick.
No, he just has a name, one of those where it's like I butchered every time. But you know, it sucks that he was just in like this super mind, because I saw him like, oh Emily, this guy's really good, and then he's just in this one scene. But yeah, Guardians 3 is gonna kill it. You'll see. So
yeah, so don't know who that character is, but like there she was kind of like really being a bad person like to him. You know, she just completely like took over, I guess his clique or family's territory, whatever the hell the situation was there. But like she shows to be like a bad person, but at the end of the day, like it still seems like she has a lot of respect, or at least a lot of other people have respect for that character. So I just thought that was an interesting situation there, where it's not just like a very clear tyrannical type person that you would just kill, kind of like who his mark was in the first movie. And then, you know, like she doesn't last too long. It's pretty early in the movie when she does perish and die, but just the effect of what that death had leading on in the movie, it really worked for me. Like if that was placed, I think, elsewhere, I think personally it wouldn't have had the same just I don't even want to say like pacing like success for me. It's more so like it went on a trajectory after that point. Maybe that's a better way of saying it. And I really liked what was going on because of that kill, and because Common like found him right away, and because of just the craziness that happens afterwards. Like it was this like bang 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 effect, where it wasn't just, oh yeah, that happened a couple years ago and now we're finally tying it. Like it just seemed like it was really amping up from that moment onwards.
Yeah, and one thing I like too, like maybe this is me headcanon, but I feel like they gave enough dialogue where it felt like whether it was earned or whether it was just like because someone naturally passed away or got killed, that's why she has a seat at the table. Where everyone kind of felt like this was a little unjust. Like he's killing his sister just so he could get the power, right? Like it feels like she's supposed to be there, where this is okay. This guy wants to be there, so he's gonna do it, and we're not too. It's not a natural thing. It's not like she died because of an enemy. She's dying because her own brother's putting a hit out on her.
Yeah, because he says like their dad like gave it to her, and
exactly,
he always
right?
thought it was supposed to be his or whatever.
Yeah, so it feels like to me it felt like she's like an actual successor, where the rest of the people are feeling like, okay, now this brother's kind of taking it off, so he never got that seat, you know?
Yeah, and he was always kind of like a whiny character throughout the movie. Like even the manager, he was like calling him out. You know, it's like he was like trying to break rules. It seemed at certain moments, and like he wasn't gonna stamp his marker thing. Even though John Wick did what he was supposed to do. So
and he wanted Wick excommunicated even before he did anything. He's just like he wants him taken out and stuff like that. And that there's one where it's funny. It's just like the first movie where they do that thing where they kill off someone quickly, and then there's still like another ending to it. And that's what happened here. Like, and I was shocked. I didn't think John was gonna kill the guy in the hotel. So when that happened, I was like, wow. And then you get like the other ending, but I like that because I always appreciate in a movie where I can be surprised, and I think between this movie and the first movie, they do such a good job of always reinforcing those rules that I did not think John Wick, because he's part of the old guard, would break said rules, and then when he did, it caught me off guard. These other characters, oh yeah, sure, but when John Wick did it, I did not see that coming, so I thought it was a kind of clever ending that way. So
I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel like from the plot of this movie and the last movie, like they're pretty basic. You know, like this person's getting revenge for this reason, or this person is trying to kill him, so he has to kill him before that happens. And
one
like,
last job.
Yeah, like it's pretty plain on paper, but for them to still be able to surprise the viewer, I think that's definitely something to appreciate.
What do you guys think about there being multiple concierges too? Like I thought, okay, you got this one place, but then now it's like
Continental.
Damn, you're scaring me now. Yeah, the one in there is called Continental. The American one's a concierge. I found that was an interesting thing too, that now probably all the countries have maybe multiple spots to drop. There's just that many assassins and assassinations going on that it's a full on chain now. It's like McDonald's, you know?
Which is kind of believable now. I mean, you're talking about how unrealistic it is in the airport when all these people like aren't really phased by these two guys shooting at each other, but it's like, you know what? Probably all those people were part of this organization. So you know what? It's probably it's like another day on the job for them. So maybe the whole world is part of this. I don't know how they go any way other than that for the chapter 3 here, because they're really just building it up that way. But yeah, it'd be cool to go to different continentals across the world. Each movie, you get one new one to go check out.
Oh yeah,
everyone's in on it except for that one grandma that was in the church in the first movie.
Yeah, and John.
No, she's the mastermind behind it all.
Oh, yeah,
she knew exactly what's going on.
She's who he has to kill in the fourth movie.
Yeah, you didn't know who really set this in motion.
Yeah. I love the idea. Continentals on every continent. Let's do it. It's fantastic. Specifically, getting to see different heads of these hotel resorts too. I really like, because we got Julius in this one.
The original Django, if you guys remember from Django.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, he looked familiar. I thought, okay, yeah, he is in Django. I think it's very, very cool just to have, again, another equivalent to that, and just John Wick is just kind of like he's well known in all of these different continental places, which makes sense because the gold coin gets you pretty far in this kind of world of wherever you want to stay. And yeah, I kind of touch more on Common as well. You said that you would have liked to see Willem Dafoe's character swapped with Common, Travis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I probably would agree with that because I didn't feel like
I don't
Common
think-
was just kind of there.
He
I felt
doesn't.
like.
It's the nicest way of he just doesn't bring anything to the role that I don't think. Like Common, he's a successful music artist. He's a producer as well. So I guarantee you they had to pay a little bit more for him. I don't. This sounds bad, but I don't know if he's worth that money. Where I think Defoe would be worth that money. Now it's retroactively, right? It's like a time machine. They probably didn't know they got a sequel, stuff like that. But just like the relationship that they have here, this is what I wish Defoe and him had, you know. And even then, like I guess I like Defoe being the friend, and he didn't turn on him. But then if it's not Defoe, I wish it was Lawrence Fishburne. Like I wish it was a different actor that I kind of invested a bit more. Where whatever, he's just Common, and he's
Got a
just
common face.
Common. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of on the other camp here. I feel like having Defoe in this role, I mean, I already said why I like Common for this role. Like, I feel like they're not really trying to do a lot though for that bonding dynamic. Like the most you get is at the bar, and even then, like it's just like it's not like you betrayed me. You're my brother. You're my brother, Anakin. You're supposed to whatever dialogue you're trying to have there. I feel like for what was written, it completely is fine to have not a super actor in the driver's seat there, and also just to have like me picturing Defoe in this role, the same kind of thing that went on with Common. Like I just feel like that kind of is weird to have Defoe as just like a bodyguard for this other actress. And again, it's tough because I'm pulling just my knowledge of the actor, into play here. But I feel like I liked him as that character in the first one. It's just, I mean, we kind of talked about it on the retro how like it sounded like there was quite a few changes that were going on in that movie, so it like I would have wanted that version of that character told differently, not so much Defoe in this person's shoes. Because I mean, again, I might be in the minority here, but I feel like it was it was fine to have this just fine enough actor playing this fine side character. Like it wasn't too much.
Who I'm
I
sure
guess
is
for
coming
me, like
back,
he kind of became like the lead villain of the movie, right? Because he gets like the most action against John Wick. He has like a lot of screen time. They get a lot of scenes together. So it feels like, okay, even if he's not set up as the big bad of this movie, that's kind of how he became. So it maybe would have been, I don't know if an actor change would have done it for me. Maybe it was more on the character side or something, but he did feel kind of plain. But there's so many villains in all of these movies, whether they're like kind of on goon status or if they get promoted and they have some more scenes to them. There's a lot of opposition, and I'm sure the third one and fourth one will have even more of that, just in terms of the moving parts of it all.
Yeah, I guess I just wish it's kind of like how Keanu, where like John Wick's like not the most well-written character, but Keanu just kind of brings like his Keanu-ness to John Wick. Where you're like, oh, that's why I like it, and that's where like Defoe has that. I'm not saying you need to get Nicolas Cage for the calm role because that could be some, but I wish there was just some actor that just had like a personality. So like even if the character's so bland, it's like, oh, but they bring something that makes it a little bit memorable. Because I'm not gonna remember Common in this movie at all, other than the plot. Like to me, he's just like in one ear out the other. I'm sure, Taylor, don't spoil if he's back for the third or fourth. I'm sure he'll be back because they left him alive for a reason. Him saying like, oh, professional courtesy. I feel like it's going to be like a new Defoe thing where eventually he will help him at some point, I imagine, just because I feel like that was kind of a turning of like, oh, he could have killed me, but he didn't. Like he really could have. He had no reason to keep him alive, but he did. So
He's gonna go out on his own terms, like Defoe did.
exactly, yeah. That's why he couldn't pull the knife. It's not his own terms, Just gets out, dives to another train. My own terms, John. Like,
I'm sure it was fun for you guys, the Matrix fans, to have Keanu and Lawrence Fishburne back together. For me, it was he was a very strange character. He was just like the Dove lady from Home Alone to me. That was like the whole vibe I got
said
from
the same
him.
thing to Emily. I'm like, now we know what she was doing. Now we know why she was there.
But yeah, I don't know. Was that a fun reunion for you guys to have those two back together on screen?
It was for me. I wasn't expecting to see Lawrence Fishburne, and it's just like you have Keanu with like these people that are pretending to be homeless people, and they're just like, oh, I'll take you to see him. And then they're like fucking basically going to see the Oracle, but no, it's Lawrence Fishburne, the crazy pigeon, not lady, the man. So I definitely chuckled, but I feel like the way that the character was going off, it just really wasn't going the way that I was expecting. I thought he was just right from the beginning going to be on John's side, but he really wasn't. Like he was almost trying to find a reason to just be able to kill him right then and there.
Even though John spared him.
Yeah, John spared him, but
it was a weird dynamic.
Yeah.
He just kept like, you're right. He just kept threatening him, but I thought he was gonna be like, well, I owe you this favor. But literally after he helped him, he's like, you owe me one, John. It's like, technically he shouldn't owe you one. Like this should be like we're even now because he spared you his life. Like it was strange. I don't know what was going on.
He
there.
gave him the gun though with the bullets. That's him owing him one. He spared him a life. It didn't turn him in, so that's the debt's paid. He had a choice, and he made that choice.
I guess I just think my life's pretty valuable that I would make sure than just more in a gun. But that's how it works. But yeah, hopefully I'm hoping the third maybe makes me like this character a bit more. People are gonna maybe call me a hypocrite. I have no reason why. There's sometimes pairings in movies that I just want to stick to the movies, and maybe that's one of them that I just would rather just see them be Neo and Morpheus, and I don't want to see anything else. Like, and then there's sometimes where like, oh, they're back together. I think it depends like how iconic the role is. It kind of be like, hey, we're gonna do a movie and Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford are in it. I'd be like, I don't really want to see that. Like, I want to see Luke and Han. I don't want to see Harrison and Hamill, right? And I think this was kind of it for me, where I didn't get that. Oh, they're back together. And then when you get Fishburne, it was like, okay, that felt very sequel-y to me. That felt, okay, we're setting up for the third one. He's going to play a big role. So that's where it's like, okay, I guess. So that one I'm reserving judgment. He's fine. Lawrence is great. So I'm hoping they give him something to chew on in the next movie.
I agree.
I felt like his character in this was very similar to his Predator's character.
Oh, yeah. That
I don't know why, but just
Yeah.
the way he was acting really made me think of him. More than like
John
a Morpheus.
in a room.
Yeah. And it's
trying
weird
to
because
draw attention to the predators.
he does that in these like action movies. He plays like that type of like weirdo character, but he's not like that in BVS or Ant-Man and stuff. But in these like action movies, he plays like this very loud, like almost kind of kooky character. Like same thing, he's homeless and he's like a little off and stuff like that. So no, that Predator's that's a good comparison to it. So
Who is he in Ant-Man? I'm blanking. I can't even picture
He's
him in
played
there.
Goliath, right?
yeah,
He's caretaking for Ghost.
Yeah,
remember?
exactly.
Oh, yeah. I've only seen that movie once. It's been
You
a
have to
hot minute.
rewatch him. Ant-Man
Yeah.
3's coming up, you know? Yeah, no, I'd say he's kind of wasted. That you don't even remember Lawrence Fishburne. But yeah, I think, I don't know. That's another thing where there's stuff in this, once you get fantastical, there's stuff in a world you're going to like and there's stuff you're not going to like. I don't know how I feel about the like homeless people assassination society. That to me is kind of like, I don't know. I need more. It's kind of, why are they homeless? Why is that a lifestyle that like, I get it because you're networking and just like, it's a bit too over the top, or maybe I just don't like it. Maybe they'll completely change my mind on the third, but it's just too
I think it
cheesy
totally
for me.
works. Like to get information, and everything. I think being like homeless and putting yourselves in the shoes, like
That's
people
what-
turn away from homeless people.
That's what happens in the Elder Scrolls, man. You go if you want to get some information in the city, go talk to one of the beggars, give them a coin, and they have like
yeah.
all the information you'd ever need.
Yeah. So I guess that plays well. I guess for me it just didn't work. Maybe, like I said, maybe the third one if it's in there. I liked the beginning of him giving him the coin and how they just like threw like the sheet over him and like he just passed out. Like he was so hurt. He just was unconscious. The homeless guy just threw the sheet over him. Like there were some things I liked there.
I love that moment too, because like you just think he's a crazy homeless man at first,
Yeah.
and then he drops the gold coin in there, and then he just like lays down and like takes
you're
like
like,
the
what the
blanket off. He's
fuck?
like, "Take me to him," and then he just like lays
Yeah.
down.
Let's
And at
fuck.
first the guy
He
doesn't
let
do
us
anything,
fuck.
so I'm like,
Yeah.
"What the fuck could happen here?" And then he pulls the pulled my cord out there, but he
Oh,
pulls
shit.
the tarp over him and then just
Yeah.
hides, and then he just has the gun right there and just pops off on the two hitmen.
And it's funny, like you speaking about the homeless thing, like that's like they do that in Batman Begins, right? Like Batman pretends to be homeless stuff. And the last shot of this movie, I thought they were trying to make it hype, but it didn't work for me. Where I get what they're doing, all the phones are going off, right? And it's like anybody could be an assassin. And they literally, it's like the Dark Knight, where instead of Batman like scootering through the city and they like close on him running or like biking, it's the same thing where like they're gonna hunt you and they're gonna come after you. Like it's the Dark Knight ending. But there's just something, I get that Keanu was suddenly was injured. There was just something about it that it didn't get me hyped. The way he was running with the dog, I just felt like anybody could take this dude out right now. Like he's just like limping at a fast pace. It's supposed to be like,
So good.
oh, I wish I had the hype you did, Taylor. I was waiting for that. It didn't hit me. I was like, okay, maybe in the third one. But
When those phones are going off though, and like I got mad because he's walking at first and he knows something's off, but like he should be running because he only got an hour. But yeah, when those phones are going off, everyone's looking at him and making eye contact with them. I thought, fuck, I'm standing up off my couch. I'm just like, let's plug number
Runs out
3
the
in.
door.
the dude should get a taxi. This run is not going to get him anywhere if he has an hour. It's gonna be an hour. He'll still just be like 2 blocks and stuff like that. So, but yeah, and he's got that I do like. I do like that he's been excommunicated. So I like in the third one, that these, I hope they don't go back on it, these like safe haven, like the concierge or like people like the doctor that would just fix him up, if he's excommunicated from this like society, I like that because it puts more pressure
Actually, it's
on John.
excommunicado. Travis.
Excommunicado, sorry. Yeah, speaking like a motherfucker here. But no, I like that there's going to be even more odds against him now and stuff like that. So I liked that tip for the third one.
The homeless guy was eyeballing him. He was ready to shoot him right then and there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Any place to go? Any specific notes?
Very
moments?
randomly, I like that in the first movie. You guys brought up in that retro that he just like he returns that line of speech in Russian to the guy when he's talking about his car. I think he maybe even speaks Russian a couple more times in the movie. But in this, I love that he just like has perfect sign language. I feel like in every movie, I'd be happy if they just give him a new language that he just knows, and it's never explained why he knows it. He just miraculously knows like every language that mankind could know because he's just fucking John Wick, and that's what he would do.
He spoke Italian too to the gentleman at the.
I missed
the
that.
hotel.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like
He
that.
probably knows
subtitles
Klingon
on.
as well.
Oh, you stole
Hey,
my
that's
joke
probably just a
there.
Keanu Reeves
Yeah.
thing. I'm pretty sure he knows multiple languages as well. So
Okay, he spoke Italian, but he was just like "Coffee." It's like, all right, I get.
Glorious bastards.
that's
I
Italian for
laughed.
coffee.
I laughed.
Yeah.
And Emily's like, "Oh, he's speaking Italian." I'm like, "Yeah, I guess," but it's just like, Keanu didn't learn that language. It's like, the Italian I'm a little rusty on. What can I say? Coffee? Okay, I got that. We're good.
It's one thing to be able
Buongiorno.
to know the words, but it's another thing to be able to have like the same elegance that the Italians would actually have. Because Common even dropped like an Italian word in there too, and I'm like, oof, no, he just practiced that off of a,
Yeah.
off of a sheet
Poor
of paper.
Common.
What's the
Taking so many
line?
bullets
What's
this
the line?
episode.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Go ahead.
There was like the rooftop that John meets the manager, and the manager is with like another person, and I think that's when he like tells them that he just like he's not gonna do the mark or whatever. He's like, "What are you doing? You got to." And I'm just like, "Holy shit, that's where Peter Parker saved
Yeah.
MJ."
Yeah.
left her there.
I
It's just
ca-
such an
yeah.
iconic like rooftop, and it doesn't seem to have changed in like
No.
I guess would have been like 20 years now from when I saw that first movie. So
Fucking Peter
shouts out to
Parker
that.
landing on the roof of the concierge doing nothing. You know, there's just a whole thing of criminals there. No, it was the past 2 years again. It was used in another movie, and yeah, it looks the exact same. And just because they use that shot first, it's always going to be where Peter dropped MJ off.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, so yeah, it's such an iconic thing, but it's fun to see.
Who are you? You know who I am. I do.
I do.
Friendly Neighborhood
I'm
Spider-Man.
John Wick.
Where it's like in the background, you just see like of this movie, Peter just like leave MJ and like fuck off.
Yeah, on the
I've seen this
concierge.
movie.
Just- Yeah,
That'd be a
it's
fun
just
edit.
stuck with a bunch of
The
people.
Continental,
there.
Travis. The Continental. Not
Is it the Continental?
Not the concierge.
You did it again, Travis.
What
He's
is
done
it?
it
No
many,
way.
many times.
It's called the
Many, many-
Continental.
I thought it was the Continental, and you said the concierge.
No, the opposite. The
Oh.
concierge is Lance Reddick. That's the guy who works the counter. That's the concierge.
I swear at one point I thought Kirklin was correcting me to call it the concierge. I was like, I guess I was
Oh.
It's been a
wrong.
long day. It's been a long day.
Yeah, it has
I-
been a
I
long
get
day.
it.
The Continental.
Speaking
That's
of
the
that,
SNL skit as well.
speaking of that guy, I loved when John was asking about boarding for his dog, and he's like, "No, unfortunately, we don't have that, but I would, I'll volunteer to take him or whatever." And then at the end of the movie, when his business is done and he goes up to him, he's like, "How was he?" He's like, "He was a good dog." And just like the line delivery that he had, just the way that he said "dog," it just made me happy. I love some dogs. So.
He's got to get a name in the third one, right? Because they haven't named him yet. So I imagine the third
Mm.
one, he's going to get that name. I wonder what it's going to be.
Calls him Nico.
Common.
I'm kidding. Common.
Come here, Common. Not even the character's name. Common. Let me look through my notes here, see if there's anything I have not hit upon. I don't have much trivia because so much of the trivia was also still just Keanu did a lot of stunts. So it was like almost practically the same as the first movie.
I gotta say though, I've never seen a set of movies that has had as much trivia as these.
Yeah.
I
Lots
guess
of
I don't
little
look through that
stuff,
all the
too.
time, but there was like hundreds of entries. It was kind of crazy. One that I thought was cool. I don't know if Kirkland noticed this, but apparently like in the subway scene, like in the background, there's like posters of the Payday 2 characters or something
that's cool.
referencing that DLC.
I didn't notice that.
So I thought that was kind of cool. I didn't notice it myself, but fun
Good shout
fact
out. I'll have to look
nonetheless.
for that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else to point out story wise or thought wise before I do some trivia and final thoughts? Going once, going twice. Okay. Very similar, but I put the statistic in because it's 5% more. Reeves this time performed 95% of his own stunts this time. The only stunts he didn't do were the ones John Wick gets hit by a car and the ones in which he falls down the stairs during the fight with Common. So there you go. The Australian distributor Entertainment One, or E1, planned on releasing this film directly to DVD. When the news was made public, E1's Facebook, Twitter, and website were bombarded with emails and notes from angry fans demanding the film be given a proper theatrical release. Shortly after, they announced that it would have a nationwide rollout 3 months after its release. So they got a little later, but they did get on the cinema. So there you go, Australian fans, which is kind of weird because successful movie and we're just Australians. But yeah, it's just going straight to DVD. But like you'd think that for the first one, but for the second one, kind of odd. But and then the directors mentioned in an interview that there were several different story ideas for the sequel as well, including ones where he was going to save his daughter or some love interest. And I'm happy we got neither of those because I was worried too when with the sister, I can't remember her name. I thought they were trying to portray some sort of they might have been lovers in the past, and I didn't want that. And then I didn't want I don't know. You could add a kid, right? Because there's nothing to say there wasn't a kid. But at the same time, it's like, he's been retired for 5 years. So I guess he could have been with his wife that whole time. And he just retired now. But I feel like that gets messy. And we've seen enough franchise do that. And same with the love interest. It's like, I don't like when they're avenging a love interest. And then movie 2, it's like they've got someone. And especially it's like 5 days after. The funeral was not that long ago in our continuity. So it's just, I'm happy neither of those plots went through.
They could put it in for John Wick 4 or John Wick 5. They're still in 5.
And I will dock them points when they do. See, it's different the time. If it's like, okay, it's been 5 to 6 years, he starts to fall in love with someone, sure. But again, how many times have we seen that? As much as I think the blood thing's convoluted, maybe I'd prefer to lean more into that and the continental stuff and the lore stuff instead of just we've kidnapped someone you love and here we go, So
I agree.
Yeah. Let's go. Dylan, final thoughts.
Sheesh. I don't know. I don't know if I have anything else to add. I think the bloat of this movie is what makes it a bit lower on the ranking for me than the first one. Although the meat, like the main course of the thing, is still like just as good, if not maybe slightly better. I think it's pretty much equivalent for me. I think that's maybe a thing too. Whereas if two movies are exactly as good as each other, but one's like a sequel to the other one, then I feel like naturally you might dock the second one a little bit. So still enjoyed my time. Still looking forward to Chapter 3 and Chapter 4. But yeah, I don't think this is like one of my top franchises. I don't think it will become that by any means, but still having a good time over here.
I'll go next because I'm probably lower than the other two. I'm a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 is like enjoyable. I would watch it again. I think I would definitely seek out the first one. Like, I really want to watch that first John Wick, where this is just, okay, if I watch, I'm going to watch all of them together, right? But I think on a second watch, it's this one I'd be more so, okay, I could do stuff. I could go on my phone for this part. I could do this, make lunch. I don't think it's like a have to watch, where I think the first one has a bit more of a journey for the character. And again, I'm prefacing this with 3, there is some stuff left over, so maybe my score would change. I think 4, I don't know, hopefully not. Hopefully we close some things off here in 3. But yeah, 7 out of 10. That's my enjoyable, would watch again, had a good time with it. Nothing out of this world amazing, but solid flick and a fun time. Oh, Kirklin.
I really, really enjoyed this one. I was curious, first viewing for both of these movies, the first and second. So I was curious just where I was going to align, I think, for like one or over the other or whatnot. But honestly, I think like as I was talking about it, I was pretty more positive on this one over the first, but I think it kind of balances out to be like the same rating for me. So I'm going to give this another 9 out of 10 like I did the first one. There's a couple things in there that, as you guys were discussing, I feel like maybe I looked past it in the moment. But yeah, it's hard to kind of look past some of that stuff that I think doesn't make this a perfect movie. But the action sequences, those 2 particular set pieces, the underground with the shotgun, that sequence, as well as like the mirror room, like those are some of like the greatest set pieces to have an action sequence like that. And then you throw on top of the choreography, which we weren't really shouting out too much more like in this movie over the first one, just probably because we talked about it so much in that first one. But like really, it's still so exceptional. And Keanu just remains to be bringing it. So I can't wait to keep going with this series leading up to the 4th. And it's really, really fun movie. Again, another one that I think is really rewatchable for me. So I think overall this series will be something that I just put on probably yearly, honestly, just because it's an easy enough watch to just throw on in the background or whatnot. Or I don't know if I just want to get hyped, just get some high octane action. Maybe I'll throw it on there.
Then you get to see the 4th in the theaters now. Get that big screen.
Yeah.
That'll be exciting. So there
Absolutely.
you go. We got that to look forward to. Deerfield.
I love this movie. It's like taken so much of what I loved in the first one, amplified it where it's all action, no stopping it, with some very humorous little moments in here too that I really, really appreciate. I'm easily giving this a 10 out of 10. If I could give it an 11 out of 10, if I give it 11 out of 10, I would, because I feel like I do like this more.
It's your podcast. Do what you want, man.
11 out of 10. There you go. I like it more than the first one.
First
Can't do
ever
that.
11
That's breaking
out
the
of
rules.
10 in
I'm breaking the
GeekVerse
rules.
this
Yeah,
year.
like this movie is fantastic, and it's just I get that bug. Like the first one, it tickled the itch, and then this one, it just like it put the cream on the itch and everything. Like
What the?
Oh, it sounds like I have a rash or
Yeah.
something.
That's bad.
No one's
I
putting that
regret
on a
saying that actually.
Get
now
that
that I
looked
said
at.
it.
Yeah.
No studio's putting that on a poster. This movie's like the cream to an itch.
I thought I was onto
You'll
something.
need cream
I
after
regret
this
it.
movie.
I regret it. I take it
The
back.
first movie gave you an itch. This is the antidote.
Ay, ay, ay.
Good movie. Go see it.
Well, on that, go see it. Go see it in cinemas near you. On that note, we better take your cream. On that note, we better end this shindig. So thank you very much for everyone that tuned in. We will be back next week with John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. I don't know why they added a word to it, but they did. And we promise you, not be boring.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
John Wick.